The next speaker is Mr. Robinson. If you want to make your...
And good afternoon. Just to introduce my colleague, Joan Cron. Joan is seconded to Impact, spent several years as a special needs assistant. Chairperson, members of the committee, I would like to begin by thanking the committee for the invitation to Impact to outline some of the concerns and the views in relation to the role of special needs assistants. During the last year or so, Impact has invested heavily in education. We've a dedicated education division. We've recruited additional staff to organise and represent workers in the sector. Impact now represents approximately 10,000 education staff, of which 60% are SNAs, and we are increasing the number all the time. Demands for special needs assistance has increased steadily in recent years, while the number of SNAs remains fixed at 10,575. The number of SNAs have been capped for the last 4 years, against a significant increase in demand for the service. In one particular case, in a special school, it has had an increase of 5 additional children with severe profound needs, with no increase in SNA allocation. There's been no change whatsoever in the allocation. This is a marked contrast to the position regarding the education supports, where the Minister, after his initial announcement, he revised the decision and increased the amount of resource teaching posts. Impact fully supports this initiative. This was in recognition of the educational needs of the children, but the care needs are not being dealt with in a similar fashion. In some cases, we would have one SNA looking after the care needs of over seven children with special needs. When I'm asked what are the issues relating to the SNAs, from my interaction with SNAs on a daily basis, I have quickly come to the conclusions that one of the main issues is respect more than reward. In the context of their role, this means a number of things. On one level, it's about recognition by the school authorities and management that they bring a range of important life skills and experience to work. I'm afraid to say that in many cases, if not all, they fail to receive the same parity of esteem as others within the school community. This can be a source of irritation, especially for SNAs. Especially if the SNA is older than a teacher, which can often be the case. The absence of full respect for the role lies in the insecure employment position of SNAs. The employment is linked directly to a particular child or children. Consequently, when the child's attendance at school finishes, they are made redundant unless another opportunity arises. This is an undesirable situation, as their employment is precarious and uncertain, but it's also undesirable from the point of view of the children with special needs, as a reduction in the knowledge, skills and experience within the system. It would be preferable that SNAs are treated similarly to teachers enjoying continuous employment. We raised the issue of job security, citing the commitment contained in the Public Service Agreement, pointing out that SNA's situation is virtually unique within the public service, as they are subject to redundancy and enjoy a very limited measure of security. The issue of job security was the subject of a Labour Court hearing. The Labour Court issued its recommendation in June 2012. The Labour Court recommended that redeployment schemes should be in place. We found it difficult to get the Department of Education and the management bodies to accept and implement the recommendation. It was only in the context earlier this year in the Public Service Stability Housing Road Agreement that we obtained a commitment to implement such a scheme. It was only possible to put in place a limited version of the agreement. It would be much better use of the development of the resource if there was a greater certainty around employment, and would ensure the retention of the skills and the knowledge gained by the SNAs. Our concern in this regard have increased since the announcement in 2013-14 allocation. In our view, there has been an increased trend on the part of the NCSE to allocate portions of posts rather than full-time SNAs. And we're seeing more and more, advertisements now for job bridge placements, instead of providing full employment position for SNAs. If this trend continues unchecked, it will lead to a more casualisation of employment. Apart from anything else, this is completely against the spirit of and the principles that underline the Public Service Agreement. The Department tries to wash its hands of the complaints in this regard, citing the independent statutory function of the NCSE. There is grave danger that in all of this, the interest of the child will suffer. Clearly, this approach reflects the limited resources that are being made available, meeting the increased demand. Whichever way it's dressed up, the fact is that more and more children are having their care needs met by approximately the same number of SNAs. While the system is such that some SNAs work with multiple children and others work with just one. There have been unfortunate examples where school management seek to direct the SNAs away from the care of the side child to other duties. It should be said in many cases a harmonious relationship does exist in the school. However, there are many instances where the SNAs are being used as a whole school resource. This is completely wrong and deprives the child of the support which he's being awarded and is entitled to expect. Consideration for any change in the current model of resource allocation must focus on ensuring that the child gets the important support that's allocated to them. Far from adopting a rigid and restrictive policy, Impact would like to see the role of the SNA grow and develop. We'd like a programme of continuous professional development to be introduced that would add value for the children and the schools while giving added stimulation to the greater sense word of an SNA. Finally, and to conclude, I wish to repeat that the issue for most SNAs is respect and not reward. It makes sense that the scheme should be continuously examined given the period of time since its introduction and the significant spend involved. However, we argue that the improving job security, avoiding casualisation of the work, introducing standard training and professional development, achieving full paritative esteem with the school community by retaining the skills and protecting the resource, the benefit of the child who needs it, is the best way to proceed. It would make sense that these things are addressed in a collaborative manner. If there is a willingness on the part of the department and the authorities to do this, Impact would not be found wanting. I would like to thank the committee for the opportunity to outline some of the issues.
Okay, thanks, Dessie.